Fan of the show? Never miss an episode by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at our website, cinemapsychoshow.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show.
And I did like the part where I guess sea nymph might be the term, but like they're saying how they
nymph or lake nymph or
it's
a lake, it's not a sea. But.
Yeah, yeah, right. Is that the mouth prosthetics were making them drool?
Yeah,
because like they weren't fitting right.
Or there's the section where they're like, so do you put the upper teeth on the bottom, or how do you put it in? And they're all three of them are just standing around, just going like, I don't know. And it's so weird because the way they're dressed with this really like, you know, almost horrible looking skin and everything, and their eyes are all blacked out, their mouths are all blacked out, and they're all three of them are just sitting around going like, how do you put these fucking things in?
Yeah.
I love those sorts of things because it just showcases, you know, that we have in our head how movies are made nowadays, and to see kind of what we would do. I would say this is kind of what we would do if someone gave us a good amount of money. If someone gave me a good amount of money to make a movie, it'd look like Under Control.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Connington, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
We got this under control.
Got this under control. Where's Lane at?
I believe that Lane is preparing for her flight into space. She is an astronaut. Most people don't know that.
So like, was she? I gotta ask this. When we recorded last, was she just doing it because we're doing this through Clean Feed? Was she just like sending us a satellite broadcast from Mars? So now she actually has to leave the rover.
It was ground control to Major Brian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So apologies to all the Lane brains, who need to get their lane fix. You know, instead of Cots Tots or Woolies Bullies.
Man, those need to be T-shirts right now. Are you a Cots Tots, a Woolly Bully, or a Lane's Brains?
I'm a Cots Tots, and I'm not even backing myself. So, but yeah, no, she is out of town. She's got her mom is getting the vaccine. Thankfully, she's got 100 things going on right now. So, unfortunately, we are missing her this week again.
Yeah, but we were going to do 2 episodes today, but we're like, no, we need to have Elaine to talk about Hannibal. Like you can't just say I'm sorry, we can't talk about Hannibal. But anyway, that's not where we're coming today. We're on episode 206, and today, just kind of moving along with this current vein of talk about indie films, because last week we talked about Bloodsucker Jones versus The Creeping Death, and I got a really nice email from Justin Armeo after we released that episode, and I was surprised because I thought it was, I thought we were critical at points, but we praised it, at points as well. And some filmmakers don't like feedback. They say they want it.
They want just promotion for their film.
Yes.
But yeah.
But this guy, he sent me an email afterwards and said, hey, thank you so much for the very honest and fun feedback. He said it's very difficult for indie filmmakers sometimes to get reviews, so he really appreciated that we did take our time and really reviewed his film thoroughly. And hopefully, down the line we can get him on the show, because I have questions.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
He said he's open to it. I have questions to, ask him about the production of such a large movie. And that's kind of like what we're going to be talking about today, another large movie. And that's a behind-the-scenes featurette that we got, courtesy of you, John, for the movie Under Control, also known as Trolls World, also known as Goblin 2, apparently.
It should have been, they should have named it Troll 2-2.
Yeah. Yeah. So, John, can you explain how you even got a hold of this? Because I don't from what you told me, no one else in North America has seen this aside from us.
Yes, yeah, we got the exclusive gang. That's right. That's how we roll. Yeah, Ava Haberman, who is the star of the film, Vanessa Meyer in the movie, she sent this to me and said, did allow us to know that it wasn't exclusive. We would be the first review of this in the United States, or all North America for that matter.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we lucked
fucking
out.
Nuts. We're the first motherfuckers.
And the way that like Ava brought this up is just like it's a great exploration into what it is to make indie low budget film and to make it successfully. So it's kind of one of the approaches that we're going to be taking today, because we did, if you check the archives of the show, we did review Under Control. It is kind of an unofficial.
We were also one of the first ones to review that one too.
Yeah, it was kind of the unofficial sequel to Troll 2. I don't know if on paper you can call it a sequel to Troll 2 or unofficial, however you would refer to it.
I think I'd say it exists within the same universe.
Yeah.
I would never. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that it's a true sequel. I think it exists in the same universe. If we're saying that Troll 2 has a universe, which I want to be part of that universe if that's the case. But if there's no coronavirus, there's fucking trolls and goblins. But anyway, if there's a universe, a film universe, a Troll CU, if you will, I want to be part of that. But I think this movie belongs in it. I don't think it's necessarily a true sequel.
It's kind of like how Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Chasing Amy are in the same universe.
Yeah. The View Askew universe.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of what I found most interesting, kind of right off the bat. We'll hit on just a few things kind of randomly, but I thought it was interesting that they had people that spoke German and only German, people who only spoke English. They had a few people that were bilingual on set. Ava speaks both German and English, and then there were people who were from the Czech Republic who only spoke Czech. So that had to be a goddamn nightmare on set, because I've only worked on sets that have people that speak English, and hell, you can't even communicate with them half the time.
Yeah. Aside from grunts. That's usually a thing. Okay, move the C-stand. Gotcha. I think that was probably. I mean, a lot of the actors in this and the crew said that this was a grueling film in terms of just the production, the scope of it, because trying to do a fantasy film, and I think that's kind of what I would call Under Control. It's more of a fantasy film than anything, on little to no budget. Now, obviously, I think they had some budget, but I don't think it was massive to the amount of scale that they were doing. You had people in prosthetics, you had people who you're bringing in professionals, which obviously they have their own costs. So to accomplish that in 26 days, because that's the thing, is this production was only 26 days long. It is an accomplishment in and of itself, and yeah, the language barrier, holy shit, I can't even imagine how that would be. I mean, there was a scene in this where George Hardy's going over. He's like, how do you communicate with someone who, the crew can't speak their language? I can't speak their language because there's no German or Czech. And I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I think that might be why the director was screaming energy faster the whole time. Yep. Eric Dean Rhodes, I think it's Eric Dean Rhodes, who I think is the director, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you literally see him screaming, energy, energy, energy. And they have a whole little montage of him saying that. And I'm like, that's partially because he can't communicate with some of these actors who aren't speaking his language.
Yeah, and as a point of reference too, if you're not aware of our Under Control review, first off, go listen to it. Secondly,
it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's this is a German production, and the version that we had to review, I believe, was first recorded in English, but then they wanted to make adjustments for the overseas release, so they it was redubbed to German, but then recut in German and then redubbed to English again. So
yeah, it's kind of a round robin mess.
Yeah, there's a lot of dubbing and redubbing, and so yeah.
I was curious about that because there were points in the behind the scenes where obviously they are recording English scenes. And I'm like, why didn't they just keep that in? And I could only guess that just possibly the language and trying to attempt English was probably difficult at times. That it necessitated the use for dubbing.
Yeah, and it's actually fascinating because like Ava Haberman she speaks perfect English, not a trace of any issue.
She speaks better English than I do.
Yeah, but then like I would be with her and she would take a phone call and just immediately go into like lightning fast German, and I'd be like, oh my god,
what are those noises you're making?
So yeah,
you're like, I understood 5 of those words. You said schnitzel, so okay, you're a conversation about eating. Gotcha. Yeah. I got you where you're going.
So yeah, this is kind of we mentioned unofficial remake of Troll 2. So they originally called it Goblin 2, and I would love to know because the documentary doesn't say.
No.
And I've kind of been in the dark about it. Is that why the title was changed to Under Control? The documentary kind of hints at it, but then just kind of abandons it.
It hints a couple times that there is a scandal, and I have a feeling it has to be about the name. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but it does say like the voiceover says, is it called Goblin 2? Is it called Under Control? Is it called Trolls World? We don't know. And it kind of does a wink and a nod of, hey, there's more to the story. And that's the thing too, is that apparently this is only chapter 1 of maybe a 3-part story.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to see the rest of it, especially because, obviously this really only accounts for the production of it. But it doesn't really account for post. It doesn't account for apparently that scandal that we don't know anything about. And it'd be interesting to see, how further this goes, how something that, obviously was made, in Germany and under a German crew and that how, it got all the way to English, how it did kind of reach its global audience, especially for an indie film. To kind of see that process all the way through would be nice. So I think there's more to the story. But what we're given here, though, is, as you said, John, it's a nice look at how much work really goes into something. And I want to, I know this is kind of jumping all over the place, but I got to say, it was refreshing to see them use practical for just about everything.
Yeah, especially the goblin effects.
Well, all the goblin effects, the makeup effects for like the lake nymphs and the Sea King, I guess.
Yeah.
All of those effects are older and harder to do. And it's one of these things where it's becoming increasingly more and more of a lost art. That isn't to say like, we obviously will watch Under Control, and there is plenty of CG effects in it, but it isn't like the be all end all. This behind the scenes gave us a little bit more insight into kind of just what it takes on the actor's part to go through the process of putting on a whole bunch of special effects makeup, which it seems like it was a cross between, like, I don't want to say amateurish, but it just felt like something that we would try to do with more professional skills at the same time. And it how it came across looked great for that kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I did like the part where I guess sea nymph might be the term, but like they're saying how they
nymph or lake nymph or
it's
a lake, it's not a sea. But.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Is that the mouth prosthetics were making them drool?
Yeah.
Because like they weren't fitting, right?
Or there's the section where they're like, so do you put the upper teeth on the bottom, or how do you put it in? And they're all 3 of them are just standing around, just going like, I don't know. And it's so weird because of the way they're dressed with this really like, almost horrible looking skin and everything, and their eyes are all blacked out, and their mouths are all blacked out, and they're all three of them are just sitting around going like, how do you put these fucking things in?
Yeah.
I love those sorts of things because it just showcases, that we have in our head how movies are made nowadays, and to see kind of what we would do. I would say this is kind of what we would do if someone gave us a good amount of money. If someone gave me a good amount of money to make a movie, it looked like Under Control.
Yeah, and for this film, they didn't say exactly what the budget was, but like they had more than $100, but it also isn't a Marvel movie where they got like $100 million or anything like that.
Clearly, this is there's definitely some money behind it, especially for things like the camera, which the camera I noticed was a red camera, but it's definitely done on the shoestring level in terms of what you can do, and I think they stretched it out as much as possible. I found it funny to see that you can kind of tell this that they're complaining about the hot lights, and that's something that you don't really hear too much about anymore because a lot of modern productions have switched over to LEDs. Yeah, so it tells me like, hey, they probably for cost reasons had to use the RE lights that are fairly hot. We're familiar with those from grad school, and that was probably because that's what they could afford. They couldn't afford necessarily gigantic LEDs or PAR lights or anything like that.
Yeah, because I remember a story of on The Breakfast Club, which isn't exactly my cup of tea of a movie, but when they're doing like the confession scenes, like sitting kind of round robin around each other, I think the lights were so hot that I think Emilio Estevez almost passed out.
Really?
From how hot they were. Yeah. But yeah, so they got these kind of, I would say, old school lights where they set off fire alarms because they're so damn hot during the movie, which is some free press, I
mean, that's absolutely some free press. You mean, take advantage of it if you can. But it was just interesting because most modern productions, at least the ones I've seen, have switched over to using LEDs. That's what they've typically moved over to. Over the larger, more hot, more power intensive lights like that were displayed here. That isn't to say that they're bad, but it's just from my perspective, seeing it just shows that they're making do with what they have, and stretching that as much as possible. It'd be great to have LED lights, but honestly, if you can get away using the old stuff, great. But you might have the problem of having to work under hot lights. Now, I want to talk a little bit about kind of, you mentioned the diverse cast, but there were some gags in this that it was nice to see the behind the scenes of. One of them being that garbage eating scene that Ava Haberman has to do. Because I remember seeing this trailer when you first showed it to me and you said that we were going to review it. And I'm like, thinking to myself, how in the world did they get her to eat garbage? I'm like, there's no way that's real garbage there. And she goes into a little bit of detail about how that was like. And that, obviously it wasn't real garbage. They just, put a whole bunch of food together if that was fresh and said, go ahead. But it was nice to see kind of the behind the scenes of that.
Yeah. It was still like in the dirt though. Hands off to her for
hands off. I mean, that's dedication there. If you're like, okay, my character is possessed by a goblin, so I have, or troll, excuse me. They're interchangeable.
Sorry, just to go back real quick, because I feel like we didn't mention, in case somebody who listens to our podcast doesn't know, which is probably, I'm sure our audience are all Troll 2 people. But
I hope so.
Yeah. If you're not, there's always been great confusion on why Troll 2 has goblins in it. And then the director, the husband and wife team of Troll 2 will say, they're goblins. There's no trolls in the movie. And then people are like, what's it called, Troll 2? And then he'll get all pissed off. So in the movie, it's the town of Nilbog, which is goblins spelled backwards.
Yep.
So that's why this movie would been called Goblin 2, because it's really goblins in the movie, not trolls. So figure that one out.
Let's be honest here. The reason why it's called Troll 2 instead of Goblin is because there was a movie called Troll that actually had a little bit of notoriety to it. And it's like the what the fuck is it? The Dawn of the Dead effect. How in Italy, Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie, and so there were a bunch of movies that kind of came after it called Zombie 2. Okay?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You're trying to play off of the success of another film. So if the audience goes in thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be getting to see Troll 2." You know, remember the stuff that happened in the previous Troll movie? That's not there at all. And that's kind of the joke here. And this is a common film making process back in the 70s and 80s of kind of just putting something out there and hoping that no one notices that it has nothing to do with the previous film and that it's really just taking advantage of it for publicity points.
Well, how many like cheap slasher knockoffs came after Halloween and they're like, "Oh, this is Blood Shack, also known as Night Terror, also known as like Bloody Dome," and it's just like
Bloody Dome.
Yeah.
How do you go from shack to dome? like that? What is it in the future? Like everyone's in space domes.
It's like Logan's Run meets Friday the 13th.
Yes, yes. It's like you've had your Friday the 13th. Like I remember one trailer said you've experienced Friday the 13th. Now experience something like Arbor Day. You know, like although that's your movie, right? You want to do an Arbor Day slasher?
Yeah. You want to get sued?
Yeah. But you know, that to give you a little precursor. I really hope. I think our audience, for the most part, if they stuck around with us for 206 episodes, that they hopefully understand the plot of Troll 2. But you know, moving on from that, you know, this movie does one of the things I noticed about this particular behind the scenes, Doc, is that a lot, and I'd love to see what a real quote unquote German production looks like, because a lot of what the cast and crew were talking about was like, yeah, we don't get to do this sort of thing ever in any other production. Like most productions in that area are not that goofy and not that off the walls and not that free to kind of do whatever the hell you want. I'd love to see what a real one looks like, because like this looks like something that we would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was interesting to get a little insight into kind of just the atmosphere that these actors and crew kind of work in, is that they really don't have the freedom to kind of, you know, throw something out there and see if it works, which obviously Under Control does a lot of. And most of the time it seems to work. I think it's because of the chemistry that these actors and the crew have.
Yeah, and I mean, this movie is off the wall anyways, but some of the deleted scenes...
We said that.
Yeah.
We said that on our review, is that this movie is kind of out there. It's off the wall in a good way. You'll like it if you like 80s culture, because this movie has a lot of it.
But, you know, the deleted scenes that show in this featurette, this movie was 10 times wackier. They just left so much on the cutting room floor.
Apparently, there's just some weirdo dancing that was supposed to be in there that didn't make it
a lot of dancing.
A
lot of dancing. But, yeah, you know, and it's one of those things that any film production that's on an independent level, and I would even say ones that have a large budget, you know, is that you're standing on graham cracker flooring, you know, for lack of a better way to say. You know, it's any production can just go wrong or just get messed up out of nowhere, or people will get confused, or somebody was brought to set. You know, it's anything and everything can go wrong. But, you know, hopefully in the end, it just turns out right. Like if you give it enough time, and you could tell that everybody, and this isn't unique to them. It's unique to any smaller production. Everybody was a little punch drunk, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
by the time that they recorded these interviews, everyone's just like, yeah, you know, we've been working like 20-hour days. And, I had to put, you know, latex on someone's face. And, I had to slather them in mud. And they had to eat the fake blood, which I'm like, oh, you must have done the Caro syrup route, because that's a thing. But yeah, it was. They definitely seemed like they had been through the ringer by the time they got to record the documentary.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, 26 days. Now, no, somebody like, George Hardy, who reprises his role from Troll 2, he was probably only there for about 4 or 5 days,
right?
And but like people like Ava was probably,
probably there for nearly the whole time.
There's not many scenes. There are a couple that don't have Ava in them, but not many. But yeah, in the film crew, 26 days. 12 hours unless you go over.
You're looking. I'd say you're probably. It's more or less. I wouldn't even say 12. I'd say these are probably 16 to 15-hour days.
Yeah, that's almost like torturing yourself to not have any.
I've done a couple of those. When I was in grad school, and actually no, it wasn't even in grad school. It was an undergrad. I had an internship with a production company. It was the first time I ever experienced actually doing 16-hour days on its set, and yeah, it's exhausting. You think you're good for it, but you're like, no, it's exhausting. Your body just kind of like turns to jello when you get done.
Yeah, and then it's go get whatever sleep you can and get your ass back on set. So
they still have to give you 12. They still have to give you 12 hours of sleep before they go through the ringer again. Yeah. But yeah, it's something that I looked at their faces, especially the crew, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel you. I know where you're coming from.
Especially too when you have little goblin outfits and people running into walls because they can't see.
That whole section was interesting. So obviously they had three different troll actors. Okay, and even at one point the person behind the puppeteer behind the mask even had to get involved in it in themselves. And it's important to kind of bring up that. The stuff that you make a actor go through can be a lot, but they're trying to put on a whole bunch of gear and trying to put a whole giant mask on that's got servos and shit all through its face. That weighs on you a lot, and the fact they were able to make the performance work in spite of that is amazing. I got to say that.
Yeah, and I spoke to the guy who was in the costume from Michelangelo in the first 2 Ninja Turtles movies. Yeah, and he mentioned that they're professionals, but sometimes it could be a goddamn nightmare. Having to wear those outfits for them, especially in North Carolina. I don't know what the temperature situation was like in Germany or Baden-Baden. Yeah, where they were shooting. But yeah, if it was even remotely hot, those poor bastards in those outfits were probably dying of dehydration. So
I remember that was one of the things because I'm a giant fan of Batman. I know you are too, and every actor who plays Batman, the first thing they say is that fucking suit.
Yeah,
it's like it looks really cool, but it's fucking terrible. It's a nightmare to wear, and it's like. They wish they could be in the MCU, where obviously they don't have to wear suits like that because Iron Man, can just have a CG suit and he's no problem.
Yeah, and like what did Michael Keaton say? Like, I can't hear anything.
I can't hear, so can't hear anything at all. Can't move my neck. It's like okay,
Michael, look left. Huh?
And that's where the bat move came from. Like his whole body torso move that he did in the first movie, it's because someone yelled at him, look left!
And he can't turn his head.
He can't turn his head. So it's like, I guess that's how you fight crime.
Yeah, imagine that would be a problem. Impede your ability to fight crime if you can't turn your head.
A little bit. Who fucking designed this thing? Tim Burton! God damn it! Oh, man. Yeah. Do we want to talk a little bit about kind of just the technical production of this documentary, because I think it's important to note, I've seen a good chunk of behind the scenes stuff, and a lot of it kind of ranges from just kind of giving you a little picture into the madness that goes inside of a film production, or it's a lot of talking heads. And this I really felt was a nice mix of the two. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. I really enjoyed getting to see a lot of the actual production end of it. I did a handful of that myself on Ava's newest film, Cyst.
Oh, so you're the one who's making the behind the scenes for that one.
Yeah, I didn't do the interviews, but hopefully
you filmed all the B roll.
Yeah, quite a bit of it. Yeah, and I tried to make sure that I got like them actually filming, things and talking about the next shot and stuff like that, because I think that's what people are really coming for. I think I saw like when I got the first like super duper Back to the Future box set, because there's like 90 of them. It's the only one franchise worse is Terminator 2. The super duper ultra mega edition. I'm like, oh, okay. But there was, I saw there was like a behind the scenes featurette in that, and it was really just people kind of talking way after the fact, and there was a couple of B-roll shots, of like production stills and things like that. And I'm like, I really wanted to watch them shoot the film, more than that. So this film really does have quite a bit of like, what was it like to make the film? Which if you're very much into the filmmaking process, this film I think really helps with that, because it really shows, a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly of shooting a film like this.
Yeah. I know the best behind the scenes featurette I've ever seen is and I have two versions of this movie on DVD. Is Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's one of my absolute favorite versions of Dracula, if not the favorite version of Dracula, and it's behind the scenes stuff. Oh my God, it's so good. One, there's like 5 to 6 different featurettes on the making of that film. So like they have a featurette literally on the visual effects side, which I'm just like, I got to geek out over this. But then the one on how the production of it, really good. And it's one of these ones where it's a combination of stuff that's more modern, because obviously Bram Stoker's Dracula came out in 92. So there's a lot of, interviews from 1992, but then they also intersplice it with some stuff that's more current. So you do kind of get a little retrospective, and they definitely have a lot of that. This is how we made the movie thing, which this documentary also has some of that. It was nice to kind of see just the process, how the sausage is made, basically, rather than everybody kind of talk about, kind of give, how typically when the people are talking about a movie, they say, oh yeah, the director's great. And they're like, no, we hate his guts. But it was nice to get like real point of views on the making of this particular production, see that stuff in action. Like you have the one character who's the boyfriend who's literally like, I fucking hate my costumes. And he's like, I hate my hairstyle. And, it's, you can tell that this isn't just paying lip service, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there was a lot of honesty on the set. And, like we said, like on an independent film, you can kind of get away with that. It's not like Chris Evans could come out and be like, let me tell you about the fucking assholes I had to work with on Captain America, whatever. They're like, no, you can't do that. The mouse will kill you. So yeah,
he will too. Like he will strangle you in the sleep.
Yeah, and that was good, because like there was obviously a lot of lip service to like, oh, what a wonderful production, we had a great time, and and I mean they were being honest, but there was also times where they were like, we don't even know what we're shooting, some people are asleep, like I hate my costume, like you said, and it's showing that that's every production, and so there was nice that there was some honesty there, that not everything is sunshine, rainbows, and Hollywood magic. So.
And I wouldn't expect that from this. I mean, obviously, when you are working on a low budget, you kind of have to give up comforts sometimes to just make the thing happen, And if you have people who aren't in on it, who aren't down for that, then it makes it difficult to make the production work. But I think the one thing I could say is that everybody on this production at least believes in it. It doesn't seem like anyone is there for a paycheck, because there probably isn't one.
Yeah. Or it's
reduced
minimum. Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this, I like the editing of this thing. It fits very much within the vibe of Under Control, and that's kind of what you have to do too. I mean, this is getting a little bit more into the details of just production of a behind the scenes featurette, but it definitely has to match kind of what the feeling of the source material is, and this definitely feels like it exists within the same world. So I don't know who particularly edited this together and did the voiceover for it, but it feels entirely like it belongs. It doesn't feel like it was kind of thrown together kind of towards the end. It feels like a very cohesive and thought out featurette.
I would be interested to talk to either Travis or Tyler, because this is before my time, but it's the same person from the trailer. I don't know if it's associated with narrative films or if it was just somebody that when they were helping distribute things out, they was already recorded. So I don't know if it was their guy or if they just got the stuff or what the situation was, but
yeah, I mean, either way, it looks great. I hope we have a drop date soon for North America. But this is, as you said, it's already available in Europe. So for our European audience out there, look it up.
And Under Control itself is available. For
Under Control is available right now on streaming. Is it on Prime?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll put a link to the movie in our show notes again. But I mean, I really enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at it, and I want to know more. Like, that's my thing. Is they kind of left you on a teaser.
Yeah.
At the end of this, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, there's a little bit of a teaser. There's some more drama that apparently us North American folk are just like, we don't know. But I would love to know more about kind of the drama, because that is something that's important to kind of understand. That we've interviewed people who have gone through filmmaking drama. My favorite one is Rick Harper. The shit he had to go through with Tommy Wiseau in his documentary Roomful of Spoons. Check out that episode. We talked about that. But it is important to understand that there tends to be drama that comes out when working on any production. And it sounds like there was some with Under Control that we're not privy to, or we don't know yet about. So they tease that at the end of this thing. They're like, look for a part 2 where we go into the post-production and dubbing and the scandal. So I would love to know what the scandal is.
Yeah, and hopefully if they make that one, they'll put them into one giant featurette. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. Because I'd like to see that from beginning to end, kind of like those the movies that made us.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we have that for Under
That's
Control.
A great series.
Yeah.
Great series. Although it is a little kind of formulaic, though. I will say that. I was watching the Christmas one recently.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this feels very formulaic now. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I'm used to that format now, but it's like, it's feeling kind of like you're just going through the motions at this point. But anyway, that's just me. That's just me, though. All right. Pretty cool. Pretty cool little documentary. Very nice. Huh. So, John, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
Neil Bogg, at Neil Bogg. The Unreal J Wolves.
You can find me at Brian Kyneton. Also, be sure to check out our Patreon. Remember, you can sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/Psycho Show. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw our way, or you worked on Under Control and you're like, you guys got it all wrong, it was great, there was no drama, none at all, contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com, and be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to audio, and we will see you next time.
Do not urinate on hospitality, for I will not allow that.
Epicast.